Donald Trump is trying to position himself to win the key swing state of Georgia. What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back in with a new video, and today we have to talk about the 2024 presidential election because Donald Trump's making a big push for the state of Georgia, and I know that seems very apparent since, well, Georgia's a must-win state. If Trump wins Georgia, his pathway to winning the presidency is all but secured. So it seems kind of obvious that he would spend a bunch of money and time in the state. Well, Trump went far beyond just announcing a bunch of rallies, which of course he's going to do a bunch of events in Georgia. That's very obvious. He's going to do a bunch of rallies in the state. It's what he announced on Twitter just a couple days ago. Everyone knows that he has a big feud with Brian Kemp, who is a Republican governor who I have a love-hate relationship with. At times, Brian Kemp is a very good governor. At other times, well, he could be kind of a dipshit. That's the thing with Kemp. He's either really good or really bad. He goes on streaks of being one of the best governors in the country to a rhino. Well, it seems like after having a feud for, 4 years now, ever since 2020, it seems like Trump and Brian Kemp, at least for now, have finally put aside their differences, and they're going to work together to try to flip the state of Georgia. Yeah, Trump publicly thanked Kemp for his support. Just a quick reminder that not even a week ago, Trump was attacking Brian Kemp for being a rhino, for being a traitor, all of that, because of course the 2020 election. We all know what happened. We're not going to get into it here, but that's what the whole feud's about, 2020 and what happened there. Well, it seems like Donald Trump has finally put aside his feud with Brian Kemp, because he publicly thanked Kemp on Twitter. Look at this. Thank you to @Brian Kemp Georgia for all your help and support in Georgia, where our win is so important to the success of our party and most importantly our country. I look forward to working with you, your team, and all of my friends in Georgia to help make America great again. Yeah, Trump posted this. He publicly said this. This is a big deal because it seems like the two finally put aside their differences and realized, you know what? We may disagree with what happened in 2020, whatever. It happened 4 years ago. We have to move forward. We have to stop talking about it. We have to focus on 2024 because they may not like each other, but they realized, oh, wait, Kamala Harris is far more egregious than, say, Brian Kemp is. So they're going to work together to try to win Georgia. This is a big deal for many reasons. For starters, going after Brian Kemp, in my opinion, was a waste of time. I understand that Brian Kemp at times can be kind of a dipshit. Like I said, he's either really good or really bad. In other words, it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You don't really know what you're getting with him. He's either really good or really bad. But I would say most of the time, especially in the last couple of years, Brian Kemp has been a good governor. Has he been perfect? Of course not. But I would say he's been a very conservative governor most of the time. Sometimes he says and does stuff that's dumb. But I would say on the issues such as abortion, school choice, guns, he has been a very conservative guy. Much better than the Mike DeWines of the world. And what makes it much more important is this is a swing state. Georgia's not like Ohio where it's now a deep red state. Georgia's a swing state. Despite that, Brian Kemp in recent years has signed very good pieces of legislation that even some deep red states, even to this day, have yet to pass. That's the thing with Kemp. He can say and do stuff that's really dumb, but when it comes to the actual issues, most of the time, he's effective, he's good, he's conservative. Much better than Mike DeWine, for example. The guy's a bozo, gets nothing done. Meanwhile, Brian Kemp in a purple state like Georgia gets conservative policies through. And you could argue him passing good legislation could help keep Georgia Republican. Because some of the stuff that he passes, to Democrats, it's so extreme that they have to leave the state, just like in Texas. That's why I think with Brian Kemp, you may not like him, but the stuff he's doing is effective. It could help Georgia stay purple, not become a full-blown Democrat stronghold like we were expecting not even 2 to 3 years ago. We were all talking about Georgia as a deep blue state now, but now the recent legislation he has passed It seems like a bunch of Democrats, especially in Atlanta, they're fleeing the state, just like they are in Texas. That's a big deal because for years, the problem with Georgia has been Atlanta. And if a bunch of Democrats move out of the city and move to Colorado or move to like Connecticut or whatever, yeah, those states get even more Democrat, but Georgia's an actual swing state. And if they're all moving out because of conservative legislation, which is just crazy, I mean, think about that. They move out because they restricted abortion to like 15 weeks or whatever. We're like, really? You're going to move out of a state because it doesn't allow abortion up to birth? That's it? I mean, seriously, think about that. Not because the cost of living, not because, schools suck in Georgia. No, that's not their reasoning. Their reasoning is, well, it's because they restricted abortion or they protect the Second Amendment. Really? That's how these people operate. It's not like with conservatives or even just common sense people out of New York and California. They're moving out because it's not only just expensive to live in, but also a lot of the stuff they passed and they forced through in those states are just insane. It's not just, they allow abortion. That's part of it. But the biggest reason is cost of living. The standard of living's garbage. But for Democrats, all that matters to them is social policy. It doesn't matter what the economy's like. It doesn't matter if it's booming, if it's the cost of living is reasonable. To them, they only care about social issues. And that's why it's a big deal for Brian Kemp to still be the governor. Him passing a lot of conservative legislation could impact the results of 2024 just because a bunch of Democrats have moved out. Again, I'm not saying that's going to cause a 15-point swing, but I do think if you just have just 20,000 Democrats that moved out because of the abortion ban or the gun stuff, well, that alone could shift the state of Georgia to Trump's column without having to win over a single new voter, which I think Trump will. I think Trump's biggest reason for trying to get Brian Kemp's support is his ground game. Listen, I know Stacey Abrams was not a strong candidate and Brian Kemp was a, relatively speaking, well-liked governor. But what he did against Stacey Abrams was an absolute beatdown. He beat her by 8 points. And you could make an argument that the biggest reason Brian Kemp did so good was because he had a good ground game. Now, of course, he is a well-liked governor, mostly, and he was going to get Stacey Abrams, who was far weaker this time. I get that. But Brian Kemp had a great ground game. We even saw this in the runoff with Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker lost by only like a point. And that was because Brian Kemp's machine he built in recent years saved him from losing by 15 points or whatever. He has a ground game in Georgia. He's building up a machine. And you can look at the swing map. He didn't improve that much in Fulton. Like 8 points, yeah, that's all right. But even in places like Clayton, Henry, Rockdale, he did worse than Trump in these areas. But to be fair to Brian Kemp, he did do better than Trump in the Atlanta metro. I'm not denying that. But there are some areas where he actually ran behind him. So it wasn't just he ran it up in Atlanta and called it a day. That's part of it, of course. Look at what he did in places like Whitfield, a very Republican county. He did 15 points better than Trump here. Yeah, he won this county by 55 points. Trump won it by 40. Just look at the raw vote share. Trump won by 15,000 votes. Brian Kemp, he won by 15,000 votes, despite turnout being lower. This is why he did so good. It wasn't just because he did much better in Atlanta, he did, but he ran it up in the rest of the state. That's what happened here. Not just the Atlanta metro. He ran it up in even northern Georgia. That's why he did so good, even compared to Trump. I mean, 10 points better here, 8 points better there, 7 here, 8 here. And we all thought that northern Georgia especially was maxed out. But Brian Kemp somehow was able to get even more support in this region. If Trump can even get half of that new support that Brian Kemp got in this region, Trump's going to win Georgia easily. And that's because if he's already winning these areas by 50 points or whatever, if he really does 5 to 10 points better across the board in this part of the state, well, Harris has to find votes somewhere. Maybe she could gain more support in Cobb County, maybe Gwinnett, Henry. I could see that maybe where she does slightly better, I guess. But the problem is, at some point, these areas will max out for Democrats. And it seems like even in 2022, there were signs that Cobb County, Gwinnett, they were maxed out for Democrats. I'm not saying that it's impossible for Harris to do a couple points better here. I think she will, unless she does that bad where she even loses support in Gwinnett. I guess it's possible. But even then, if Trump is really running it up in even Cherokee, Forsyth, Floyd, that will be enough to counteract any small changes in Cobb and Gwinnett. That's why it's a big deal to get Brian Kemp on your side, because he's not only a well-liked governor, and attacking him constantly doesn't help you. I mean, I'm not saying Trump attacking Kemp was going to cost him support, but it doesn't even necessarily help Trump either. It doesn't hurt him, but it doesn't really help him. But working with Kemp, there's no downsides. There are absolutely no downsides in working with Kemp. Like, what's the downside to working with Brian Kemp to win Georgia? What? Oh, you gain access to his machine? That's a good thing. You gain access to the infrastructure that won Brian Kemp the election by a lot in 2022. So you have nothing to lose by working with Kemp. I know Trump does not like him. I understand that. But if you want to win Georgia, your best bet is to work with Kemp. Make a deal with him. Let's just say, look, the feud's over. We're done. If you help me, I'll stop. And hell, I may even support you for Senate in 2026 or something like that. It's a fair deal. Kemp helps Trump win Georgia, and Trump maybe supports Brian Kemp for Senate in 2026. We gotta see if he actually runs, but it sounds like he will. Either way, it is a big deal that Trump is making this push for Georgia. Because if he wins Georgia, at that point, he just needs Pennsylvania. If he gets Pennsylvania, well, it's over. He would be at 270 at that point. That's why he has to put a lot of effort into Georgia. And he may not like Kemp, but he has to make deals with him. He has to say, look, if you help me, I'll help you. I'll stop attacking you. We can make a deal, and that's that. Again, I'm not saying Trump's going to win Georgia by 10 points, but him getting access to Kemp's machine, I really do believe it gives Trump a small boost. Not a 5-point bump or something, but maybe a 1-point boost. Because it is effective. It worked in 2022, and you could argue it saved Herschel Walker from losing in a landslide. Because his machine worked double overtime. And, well, they lost, but they came close to winning a race that, frankly, they should have lost by 10 points in. We just got to see what happens, but this is a big deal. Trump should do a bunch of campaign events with Brian Kemp. Just say, you know what? You do events for me, and in 2026, I'll support you for Senate. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.